Hello everyone and welcome to Rudy's Retro Intel. On today's show we'll be looking at the new revolution in ROM adapter technology. This is the One ROM. It's a ROM replacement for your vintage computers or anything that requires a ROM. So let's peek inside and poke around. All right, let's look at the ROM adapters that are available now. So you have a vintage computer or technology that has a ROM that you need to be replaced. You would have to find the ROM, or sorry, an EPROM. Then you would have to get a programmer or eraser first. So you'd have to, find the ROM. So let's say it's a 2332. You would have to buy one. You would need a UV light EPROM eraser, and this is basically the unit. This is you put your ROM in there, close the door, set your timer, turn it on, set your timer, and let it go for about 15-20 minutes depending on the strength of the UV light. And then it'll be erased. You turn it off, you open it up, and now your ROM is ready for programming. Next thing, you'd have to buy an EPROM programmer. You'd have to put the EPROM in there, and then you'd plug it into your computer, run the software, and then you would get the app to find what ROM type this is. You would enter it and then program it with whatever ROM image you require for your device. If it's an Apple II or a VIC-20 or any computer, any vintage computer. So you'd have to do that, pull that out, then pop it into your machine and see if it works. If it works, great. If it's not, let's say you programmed the wrong image on it. Well, then you have to go back. You have to pull out your eraser. You have to erase the EPROM. You have to then plug it in and program it again with the correct ROM. Pull it out, plug it in your computer, and test it again, and so on and so forth. Now, there was an easier way to do that. So here's an EPROM adapter. You can buy them and assemble them. You would have to solder up the connections. Let me zoom in a bit here and show you that. Okay, so here's an EPROM adapter. You still have to program your EPROM, and you pop it in, and then you can use this on your vintage computer. And again, if the image is incorrect on here, then you have to go through the process of erasing it, programming, and so forth. But this allows you to plug in a more modern EPROM into a computer that has a ROM that's no longer available anymore. Another option is you can get another board like this where you just have an adapter. This adapter would plug into your programmer like so. Right, and it has pins on here which connects to this board. This board would then plug into here, and then you would program it like you normally would with your computer, and then you take this out, plug it into your computer, and there you go. And if there's something wrong, let's say you plugged again the wrong image on here, or the image is bad, again you have to pull out your adapter, plug it in, and you can erase it. So with this, you don't need an eraser UV light device. But you can also get boards, so that the board you would just you would solder on the pins for your EPROM. You can solder on your support logic to it, and that would plug into your computer. But it's kind of big, so it might work, it might not. Again, though, you still need to erase it and then program it. The next evolution is a unit, and this is called the One ROM. It was created by Pierce Rocks. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll leave links below. And what this is, it's a ROM replacement, so it replaces your EPROM for your vintage computer. And what you would do is you don't need any device. You just need the computer, and you would need a USB cable. So what happens is that you plug the USB cable in here. You plug this into your computer. You would go to the website and select the ROM. You can then program it directly. You can also do file ROM images that you have locally on your computer, and then you unplug it, plug in your computer, turn it on. Now, if it's the wrong one, while it's in your computer, you could still plug this in and reprogram it and then unplug it and then restart your computer, and then the new image is there. The other really neat thing about this is that you can have different images on here. So for example, I've made a couple of my own. The site has all the Gerber files, all the information you need to get your own made up if you don't want to buy them. He does sell them, but you can make your own. It's all open source. Now this one, I have used the black board as opposed to a red one. And it has these pin headers that you would solder on. And you can store several images on here. So depending on where you put the jumper, so with no jumper, it's the first image. With the jumper on the first set of pins is the second image, and then you can move it on to the next one, which is your third image, and so on and so forth. So you can have multiple images on your One ROM adapter, which is great. So you can have the adapter for let's say we'll see that in soon. I've used one of the One ROMs to put the Apple F8, the ROM, the boot ROM that's required for the Apple II, but I also put a second image on here which has a diagnostics test, which was developed by Adrian from Adrian's Digital Basement. And then I have a third one on mine, which I've created a CPU tester. So you can use this ROM for multiple reasons. And if you decide that, okay, today I have this one plugged in and I want the ROM beside it be plugged in, and I can just have these in, I can just set this up for, let's say, the kernel ROM and the basic ROM or whatever. Or you can just, if you need to, just replace the one. Or you can actually make one for your bench. And if you have a bad ROM, so for example, you can do this. I've made a switch on mine, for mine, and it plugs in like so. Oops. So it plugs in to your board and like that. So I can plug it into my computer and I can say, hey, let's boot up to the computer. Oh, there's a problem. So from here I just click the switch and then reboot the computer, and then now it goes to the second ROM, which is a diagnostic ROM. Again, you can use a jumper for that, or in my case I just hooked up a switch. So I can use my One ROM as part of my diagnostics tool. But if not, you can just use it as a ROM replacement. Now, I'm not saying that you should pull out all your ROMs and replace them with these, but if you need to replace your ROM, this I think is the next step in the EPROM/ROM adapter evolution, because it only requires you to hook up your USB cable to a computer and you can program it to whatever you like. So with that being said, let's pull up the Apple II computer. I'm going to show you how this works, and then we'll do a VIC-20 computer and we'll go from there. Alright, on the bench here I have an Apple II Plus computer. The computer is having a problem with the F8 ROM. The F8 ROM is very important. It's required for booting the Apple II Plus. I was able to determine that was bad from my diagnostics manual. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're not aware, I have different manuals for different computers. So if you want to check out my GitHub page, you can download the PDF files. In this case, there's one for the Apple II. So from that, I was able to determine that the F8 ROM is bad. Now I can, use different adapters and so on and so forth, but we're going to be plugging in the One ROM. We're going to see how this works. So this is One ROM. I'm not sure it's already programmed on here. I've used it for other computers and stuff. So, but that's okay. So let's, let's first, we can program it with it in the board, or we can program it out. I'm just going to connect my USB cable outside, and we can see the little light is turned on. So let's let me set this up. Now let's switch over to the web page. You can go to onerom.org and get to the programming for the device. Let's look at that now. Alright, here we are on the One ROM web page. It's the onerom.org site. You can use the Edge browser or Chrome. So we've plugged the cable in. Let's do a connect. We're going to connect to our paired device. It's read the paired device, and we see we already have some ROMs already programmed on here. The unit we have, it's a model is called Fire. There's Fire and Ice. That's the 24-pin E with the MCU variant is the 2350. Firmware on there is 0.6.8, and we can select an image from here if we wanted to. We can do a pre-built image. So if I clicked on here, you can see ones for the Commodore 64 floppy drive, the Commodore PET, the Atari XL ROM. So if I select that, it will show me this contains the stock basic ROM for the Atari XL. And there's other images here. We have all kinds of other goodness. We have one for the 64, and the 64 there's the different information regarding for that one. Let's see here, VIC-20. So the one I've installed or already programmed was the VIC-20, and it has multiple images on it. It's got the kernel ROM, the basic ROM, character ROM, dead test kernel ROM, and a One ROM tester for the VIC-20. So there's 5 different images on one device. Now we don't want to use this one. We want to go to custom, and we select, I'm going to pick the F8 ROM. So let's book in the F8 ROM. Okay, we want a 2316. That's the that's the type. And CUS 1 is low, this is high, and this is low. These settings you can easily find out from the schematics. Another way, you just pop it into your AI and say, okay, I have this EPROM. What are the CI 1, 2, and 3 levels I should be using, or it requires, and then you'll know what settings. I've also created a Word document that will show you that. I've created some for just basic things that I'm working on, and I'm making a document. I'll put this on my GitHub page so you can take a look. So in this case we want no duplication. It's low, active, high, active, low. If we scroll up on this document, we talk about the settings for how to use different images and programming for multiple images. So it's a little document I've put together for myself, and I'll put that up on the page. But the first thing we need to do is we need to build the firmware. So let's build it. So it's getting things ready to program it, and then we hit program. Now it's actually programming the One ROM. If we connect again, and we can see here it's now changed to Apple II Plus, Apple Soft Basic, Auto Start Monitor. So now that we've done that, our computer here, actually let's do this. So we're back on our computer. I'm going to unplug the device, so this will plug in. Now there is a white stripe in the corner here, which shows pin 1 on the device. Then there's the headers on this side. So just remember that when you're plugging it into your computer, like in this case, the notch is on this side. So that's pin 1. So just remember that white, the white corner piece. Or easier, just say, hey, the header pin should be facing the same side as pin 1. So that's the case. So let's plug that in here. There we go. We want to make sure all the pins are connected correctly. Let's switch to here. And so now we have programmed the unit. I'm going to move that back just a hair. Okay, let's turn it on and see what we get. And now we get the Apple II beep. I think oh, here we go. Yes. So we have the Apple booting up. I'm going to go to here, and we can see that it's working. Right, so we see that it's up and running. It was the F8 ROM. Now I've replaced it, and we're good to go. So this is neat. Now, if I want to change that, so let's say I want to go back and I want to install the diagnostic, the memory diagnostic that Adrian from Agent Digital Basement created. We have to reprogram the ROM. So we can do it on the fly. So what we can do is take our cable. Let's take our USB cable and we can plug it in while the computer is on. So let's plug this in. And now we saw the light. See how it changed to dimmer? So it's in programming mode. So now what we do is we go to here and we're back on the same page. We click connect. We want to connect to the device. It found the F8 ROM that we had programmed onto it. Now we can go a custom image. So we're going to go custom image. We're going to load a custom one and we're going to load this one. And it's the same settings, so slow, high, and low. We're going to build a firmware and then program it. And if we go back to the top and reconnect, we can see we've loaded the Apple II Plus CPU. Oh, it is the CPU test one. Yeah, that's not the one I want to load, but since it's loaded, let's give it a boot and go back to here and we're gonna power off and power back on. And this is a little program that I created, and what it does, it shows the status of the CPU. We have to unplug the cable. If you don't unplug the cable, it's still in programming mode, so whatever ROM you have on there is not going to work. So you have to unplug it, turn it back on, and now we'll see something. All right, so we can see here on the top corner there is a flashing kind of like cursor looking thing, and what that means is it's running through our CPU test. So it's a little program I wrote, and I want to try it on the on an EPROM, and it works great. So if the CPU was bad, that screen would be frozen. You will not have that flashing in the corner of the screen. So that is the CPU test. Now we don't want that. I want to plug in the cable again, and we want to change it to the diagnostic ROM. So I'm plugging it in here live. You can take this out of the case or out of the motherboard, plug it in like you did before, but this way you don't have to keep things plugging and unplugging. You just do that. Now the good thing by having the computer on while you're doing this is if you turn the computer off, your main computer, laptop, would be trying to power the computer with the 5 volts. So you want to make sure your vintage computer equipment is on, so it's not trying to pull 5 volts from your laptop or your computer to power on the unit. It'll work, but it's best way to do this. Anyways, let's jump back to the desktop and put the right ROM, the dead test ROM on here. So let's go back, and I want to make sure I'm reconnected. Yes, it is, and I want to load. Where is it? Okay, so this is the Apple dead test. Again, we don't need this. Should be set to low, high, and low. I want to program it. It's a 2316 and program. All right, so now we're going to go back. All right, so we have it programmed now. I'm going to unplug this. Now you notice the computer, I don't know if you can see it here. The computer is still running the old ROM, but we're not using that right now. So let's turn it off and turn it back on. And as we see now, it's running the diagnostic software that Adrian has created. It'll run for a little while and give you a report based on the memory on the computer. It takes a while. I'm not going to do it, but I'll leave you a screenshot of what it looks like at the end once it's done all its testing. Okay, now on the bench I have a Commodore VIC-20 I'm going to be replacing the kernel ROM, which is at UE12, and that is the kernel ROM for the VIC-20. Let's first power it on and make sure it works, so I can show you. Yep, it's working. That's the screen we get for the VIC-20. So let's turn it off. We'll put in the One ROM. I'm going to show you how you can download and install the image from the website. Again, you can also do it if you have files locally, but in this case he's already created one for the VIC-20. Let's pop that in and go from there. So let me first power this off. I'm going to pull out this EPROM. Okay, and I'm going to put in the One ROM again. The One ROM has the marking, the white marking for pin 1. If not, just remember where the header jumpers are, which is the location of pin 1. It's in the same row. So here the pin 1 is top, so we're going to pop that in with the jumpers facing in that direction. There we go. It's plugged in. If we power on, we're not going to get anything because there's nothing programmed on it. It's probably something old that I've already been using, probably the Apple II stuff. Anyways, let us plug in the USB cable. Now it's going to be hard in this case because it's into the case. So let me pull it out. Let's pull this out. Very carefully. If you're using a tool like this, you want to make sure that you're not grabbing underneath and stabbing, stuff on the bottom. So let's pick up my cable that fell over, and we're going to program it. So let's plug this in here. Now you could do this on the board, but in this case the actual lip here on the VIC-20 case is in the way, so I can't plug in the cable. So let's just put the ROM here and switch over to our bench desktop. Okay, so we're back on the One ROM page here. We're going to connect again. We'll have to pair it up, and it's going to read it. And yes, it had the Apple II dead test we were doing a moment ago. So we're going to change that. We're going to go to the pre-built images here. It auto fills in this information because it read it from the One ROM. And the image I'm going to select and go to the very bottom, and here's the VIC-20 NTSC. So here we have the first image on here is a kernel ROM. So this is where we're going to put the One ROM in. There's also basic. There's a character ROM, dead test, and the VIC-20 ROM RAM test. So we're going to program this, and it's going to actually program the One ROM, and it's done. If we go to connect again, we're going to see this update. It should be up, so it's all the same as we've programmed it. Okay, so we're going to unplug the USB cable, plug it in again. Make sure pin 1 is the little white marker, or you just remember the connect the jumper settings here for just remember where the jumpers can go. You can also look at it as the USB port is facing away from pin 1. So we're going to pop that in, and we're going to let's turn this on, and we'll see what happens. There we go. So it is booting up with the One ROM, and we're getting to this screen here. So the setting was for, what was the diagnostic? Let's see here. The diagnostics was image 3. So let's go. let's go and put this on image 3. So it's 0. 0 is no jumper. 1 is the first set, and then 2, and then 3. So let's plug that in and power it up. And it is running its test. See? So it's doing the RAM test. So we can see that it's actually working really great. This thing is just an amazing tool to have. You can again, we can just leave this in here so that if we in the future we want to do future testing, we can also just leave it as the kernel ROM and make another one, so we can get another device, another One ROM unit, and program it like this, so that for testing in the future we can just take this, plug it in another VIC-20 and saying, oh yeah, run the memory test. Okay, we know the memory test is good or bad, or whatever you want to do. But in this case, because I'm just doing for testing, I do have the working kernel ROM, so I'll put that back. But this will be going into my test kit bench, so that for future, if I need to run a diagnostics, I can just do that. Or I don't have to leave it programmed. I can just have it empty. It doesn't really matter because you can reprogram them. So that's really cool. I think this is really neat. And now I'm gonna put back this the other ROM back in there, and we'll wrap things up. Well, that's pretty much it for the video. As you can see, the One ROM, this one is red, and this one I made is in black. I just wanted something different. The One ROM is an amazing addition to your toolkit. I think it's the next evolution of ROM adapters. Simple to use. You just plug in a USB cable, hook up to your computer. You can connect to the internet to download existing ROMs. You can use a custom ROM. There's also the software that runs locally if you want to create multiple image One ROM. So you can use that. It works with Linux. It works with Windows, Mac, I guess. I mean everything, because the main program is just the web page. But the adapter, the additional software, I'm having no problem. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I built the test for the CPU for the Apple II. I might play around and do some more diagnostic software now. This is simple. There's no ultraviolet light. There's no programmer. There's no fooling around. I don't have to worry about buying new old stock ROMs and do stuff. Very, very cool. Very neat. The headers you can put on, or you can hook up. You can wire directly if you want. You can wire some switches directly to the board so you don't have the header sticking up. Just remember to plug it in the correct way. You can leave this, once it's in your computer, you can just leave it in there. You can just hook up the USB cable and read from it. If you want to download the image, if you suspect that the image is bad for some reason, you can then just push the new one in, unplug the cable, reboot your device, and you're up and going. So I highly recommend the One ROM. I'm going to leave links to Pierce's website, and here's the onerom.org if you want to do a screenshot of that. If not, just check the links below. I want to thank you for watching the video. All my subscribers, my Patreon members, everyone's totally awesome. I thank you so much for spending the time with me, looking at this. I'd love to hear your feedback, what you think about it. Check out Pierce's website and his YouTube channel. I'll leave links below. He goes way more in depth on all this stuff, how the programming works, how to properly program the One ROM. I will leave a link to my GitHub page, which will have this is my beginner's guide. This is something I learned along the way, so I just made some notes if you're interested in seeing that. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care and have a great day.